Hi, I'm Sean.
I'm Rhonda.
We're excited to be with you today. We want to talk about differences in communication between husbands and wives.
Men and women communicate differently. Did you ever figure that
Oh,
out?
really?
They do. Let's look at why the way we're wired affects that. Now, this is info that we got from Dr. Carolyn Leaf's book about the brain, Who Switched Off My Brain. And so, if you want to go to that for more information, we pulled out some info on communication from it. So, let's see, what are some of the differences?
Well, one of the first things that you notice is that men typically communicate about facts. So a man has fewer circuits between the verbal, emotional, and conversational centers, but more circuits in his brain in the problem-solving and action areas. His communication deals more with facts, actions, and results. He tends to cover the basics and speak in headlines. He is designed to separate words, emotions, and memories and will, therefore, feel, express, and verbalize his emotions independently. Now, a wife can help her husband bring feeling into his facts and help him to slow down and experience events more fully.
Now, the woman is more focusing on an emotional angle in her communication. She communicates with a lot more feeling and emotion than he does. That's probably not news to too many of us. She's designed to link words, emotions, and memories and covers every detail. She doesn't separate but pulls together her emotions to feel, express, and verbalize them. Research shows that a woman's emotional processing and memory centers are large, active, and closely connected to her language centers, causing her to communicate more with feeling and emotion than a man. A husband's facts, though, can add balance to her emotions, that she not become overly involved in the moment. So
Wow.
let's talk about how does this affect
Well,
relationship?
so often when we're communicating and we're coming from those different perspectives, we are going to come up with different ways that we view things and different ways that we communicate to each other about what's happening.
One thing, if we look at the way the man processes, we see that he doesn't have the circuitry through the verbal and emotional and conversational centers that she does. And because of this, and you may feel, oh, this is reversed for us. We'll just flip who does what. But this means that he's going to feel overwhelmed verbally and emotionally faster than she would. And she may not understand that. And when talking to a man, it's important to limit the words, the number of words, the amount of emotion, and certainly the intensity.
You know, one thing that you're probably aware of is that most men have a fix-it mentality. We want to make problems go away. Mm-hmm. And when we apply that into the relationship with our wife, sometimes we can be having a mentality that I want to make this problem that we're viewing go away, when the wife is looking at it and she wants an emotional connection there with what she's feeling. She doesn't want it to go away necessarily.
And so she's got these feelings, she's got these emotions, and she wants her husband to come into them with her. Not try to fix her, but appreciate that she is different and to be able to connect with those emotions. I understand that you're feeling a certain way. It doesn't mean that he feels that way too. It doesn't mean that he agrees, but it means he's able to embrace a woman and not just physically.
You know, something that we need to learn how to validate our spouse's experience and perspective. And just because it's different than ours doesn't mean that it is invalid.
Right. And so many times we hear men say, but I'm not emotional. As if, and I'm not going to go there either. And it's like, you probably would never wish that your wife was a man. And yet, when men try to get rid of the emotion, let's get the emotion out of this picture. It's basically for a woman like saying, don't act like a woman. Act more masculine. I need to masculinize you. What if a man accepted and embraced her femininity? The fact that she is a woman without belittling her and treating her like she's a child because she has emotions.
You know, there's obviously a balance there where we do make changes and adjustments for our partner based on what they need,
Yeah.
while we're not losing the sense of
Right.
what God put in us as a valid expression also. So there is a
Right.
balance of learning how these two actually work together. Many times
Yeah.
the areas that we have conflict in our marriage surround something that God intended for us to be different, and we need to learn how those work together.
And so it's really important when a woman understands this picture that she's reducing, dialing back the words and the emotion. So when communicating with a male, if you want him to catch your message, try limiting it to a headline first. Introduce a headline since he likes the headlines and connects with a headline. Maybe give him a topic sentence. Maybe invite him to ask for
Yeah.
more information.
Yeah.
Don't just decide, you know what, I need you to know this information and you're going to hear it whether you want it or not. Well, if we treat anybody that way in any other relationship, does that work? No, it doesn't work. And it doesn't work in the marriage either.
And that is a big thing here, is that men typically have that more, I need the headlines, and the women present many times more details, the fine print, and a more detailed
Right.
understanding of something. And so learning
Yeah.
how that works together is perfect.
If one of you is a lot more verbal than the other, tends to monologue, which we will say monologuing is great for a student-teacher relationship. It's not great in a marriage. But if somebody is talking at length, can we interrupt and say, I want to track with you? Could you just first give me the headline so I know where we're going with this conversation? We can say things like, I'm losing you here and I want to stick with what you're saying. Can you give me a 1 to 3 sentence overview? Can you summarize for me?
Sometimes just recognizing how God made us differently and how God made our spouse to think, and maybe there's not anything wrong with your spouse, but maybe they're just operating like God wired them, and we need to be able to appreciate that.
And when we think about women, we think about how she's wrapping all these things together. The words, the emotions, the feelings, but he's compartmentalizing them. That's how his brain is made. He doesn't have the connections between the centers like she does. And if she can break it down, she may be talking about the circumstance or the event, and then she may be talking about the emotion related to it. Can you see how you would break it down into smaller pieces instead of talking about the emotion and the event and the circumstances and what happened all in one package? Well, that's like, 6 or 8 topics, actually. Too many for the male brain. He opens one box and works on it intensely, closes it, opens another. Now, a woman can handle multiple inputs simultaneously. That doesn't work when you're talking to a man. So reducing that can really help him out. Notice that also we balance each other. She can help him slow down and enjoy the moment. He can help her close that moment.
If you're the man who has more of the focus on the headlines, you can learn from your wife how to have the capacity to appreciate more details. And if you're the woman who is more detail oriented, you can learn to appreciate the headlines and the value that brings into a conversation.